Jeez, I all but forgot how immersive IMAX 3D can be. Ant-Man and the Wasp. So Ant-Man and the Wasp is the 20th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the 8th movie in its Phase 3. It takes place after the events of Captain America Civil War, but before the events of Avengers Infinity War. So after being broken out of the rat prison by Captain America, Scott Lang has been on house arrest for 2 years, but now he is once again called on by Hank Pym and his daughter Hope Van Dyne because there's a new mission that requires his help. There's more exploration of the quantum realm in this movie that you bet your ass I'm not going to spoil in this video, but long story short, we gotta rescue Janet Van Dyne, who is Hank Pym's wife, Hope Van Dyne's mother. And also a new villain arises by the name of Ghost, who somehow stole some of Hank Pym's earlier technology and now she can phase through walls, but she's suffering from a problem that I'm not gonna dive into. And I'll be honest with you guys, looking at the trailers in this movie, I was like, it might just be a little too ridiculous for my taste. I mean, I know, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, they're ridiculous over-the-top movies, but they're out in space. They're allowed to be ridiculous. Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place in our world, so like anything over-the-top ridiculous is just gonna be really cartoony in my mind. And there are a lot of over-the-top elements of this movie, like big ants playing the drums. I'm like, okay, that's just not realistic at all. But I'm gonna give some props to Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. Their chemistry is really good. Coming from Ant-Man 1, which came out 3 years ago, their relationship moves forward in a pretty good way, I thought. But Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne / the Wasp, she is the Wasp now, and I thought she kicked complete ass. She has a stronger relationship with her dad, so she's not as whiny as she was in the first movie. She's tougher now, so when she suits up and throws down and shrinks and flies, it's really cool to see, especially in 3D. And of course, when she and Ant-Man team up together and they throw down, the action's even more cool. I mean, the action overall in this movie is really fun to watch because of the whole shrinking and, you know, the villains phasing through walls, the fights that go down. It's really neat to see. Like, how would you choreograph a fight between people who shrink and someone who phases through not just walls, but like any object? It just, to me, made the action scenes really fun to watch. And of course, Michael Douglas is once again great as Hank Pym. He's a little tougher too because he and his daughter have been doing research into the quantum realm. He's confident that he can save his wife. We actually get some real emotion out of him in this one. I mean, we got emotion out of him in the first one, but like some real, like almost heartbreaking moments with him in this movie. And it's great acting. Now, Hannah John Kamen as the villain Ghost, I don't know if she's gonna go down in history as one of the more memorable villains in Marvel movies, like the past few Marvel movies have had, Thanos, Killmonger, Vulture. I did like her character though, and she has a really good backstory, and not only that, but her character arc in this movie I thought was really interesting. The trailers don't say much about it, so I'm not gonna say much here, but she does end up being sympathetic, not really all that memorable, but sympathetic, because of what she is going through. Alright, that pun was not intended. Going through. And the visual effects on her in particular are really cool. You saw a little bit of it in the trailer, like the way she phases, like you see like echo images of her like around her. It's hard to describe, but when you see it in this movie, you're like, how is that even logical? It's a really cool effect, but in some ways it just doesn't make sense. Again, it's hard to describe. It's cool to see, but it makes me rattle my brain. I'm like, whatever, fun comic book stuff. Now, this being an Ant-Man movie, there's gonna be humor, and as I predicted, the movie did kind of overdo the humor because it's a Marvel sequel, and like I said, Marvel sequels tend to overdo the humor. Michael Pena is back as Louise, and he rambles and bumbles a lot in this movie because people loved when he did it in the first one, and I'll admit, he had a couple of moments in this movie that made me laugh out loud. One monologue he does in this movie, I think it was about like halfway through, I'm like laughing about it right now as I'm thinking about it. But then there was a lot of humor in this movie that didn't land with me, and again, it's probably just a me thing because the audience around me was roaring up a storm. I don't know what it is about humor in movies these days. It's not really taking any points off because I had still enjoyed what I was watching on screen. I just wasn't laughing out loud, but I still love the characters and the story and the action and everything that's going on in this movie. Maybe I was holding back on laughing because I was trying to pay attention to what was going on and I didn't want to miss any dialogue. Another thing about this movie is that it felt a little short. It didn't feel rushed, just a little short. I don't know, I just feel like this movie could have been longer. Maybe add a few scenes, bulk it up a bit to maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think this movie is just under 2 hours. I don't know, I felt like there was more story to tell than what we got. Maybe you can get rid of Walton Goggins' character entirely because he really doesn't serve any purpose. Maybe give more backstory to Ghost. Maybe that's probably what it was. Ghost could have used more backstory. But in the end, I really had a great time with Ant-Man and the Wasp. A better time than I thought I would have. Is it over the top and ridiculous? Yes, but I fell into it because I just love the characters. I love Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne. They have great chemistry. I love the action. I loved watching it in 3D. In fact, this might actually be a fun movie to watch in D-Box. You know what D-Box is? It's like those moving seats, like a 4D type of thing. There are actually movie theaters that have that. And you would imagine tickets for that would be really expensive. But I feel like this movie might just be worth it. Because it's a really fun ride. You're going into the quantum realm, and they're flying all over the place, growing and shrinking. It's just a fun ride. But it's a fun ride with great characters, a good story with some emotional moments, and a good score. Once again, Christoph Beck, who scored the first Ant-Man, comes back to score this one, and he brought back his original Ant-Man theme, which I appreciated, although it has evolved a bit. And I think the Wasp herself got her own theme, and I thought it was really cool. Like the first action scene with just the Wasp, she's thrown down, and I'm hearing this new theme music, I'm like, whoa, alright, this is cool. It's like Ant-Man has his own theme, and the Wasp has her own theme, and when they're together, their themes combine. I love that. That is genius right there. This is Ant-Man and the Wasp after all. So in the end, fun action, great characters, fun music, and some great moments in this movie where you're like, ooh, damn. For Ant-Man and the Wasp, I will say, go see this movie while it's in theaters. And there is a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. The post-credit scene is just a little joke. You don't have to stick around for it, but the mid-credit scene, holy shit. So, Ant-Man and the Wasp, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.